Hello everybody and welcome back to the Sunset Safari. This should look, not this, yeah, it is the Sunset Safari, I almost said sunrise. This should look very, very familiar as we've been sitting here the whole day. No, I'm just joking. We have not been sitting with the Black Rock Pride for the entire day. We've been out exploring, but like I said this morning, we were going to be back, and we're back. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Archie. And it is very hot out here in the Masai Mara. Rolf was also out driving around looking for all sorts of things. Perhaps he's going to head back towards that cheetah, but I won't tell you about what's happened throughout the day. I will save that for Rolf. Now, for those of you that have joined us for the first time on Safari Live, a big welcome to all of you. And this is a live and interactive safari, so you can actually talk to me right now. You can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can also talk to me via the YouTube chat. Now, I think it's quite strange that that lioness is sitting all the way up top on that black rock in the middle of the heat of the, well, yeah, it is very hot today. I've forgotten, Faith, what the temperature is. You're going to have to remind me. But it's about 27 or 28 degrees Celsius at least. 23? Never. Well, the real feel is about 28 degrees. Apparently that's for the Mara Triangle, though. We're in the Masai Mara National Reserve. So, it seems to be a little bit hotter here, but there is a bit of a breeze about. So, it's a bit suspicious that that lioness is sitting up top there. I think that she's come out earlier to see what's going to pop out from the long grass, perhaps waiting to spot a warthog, while the rest of the lions all lay under the tree. Now, Hampus, you're wondering if all 9 cubs are still alive. Yes, they are. I'm so sad that you missed the sunrise safari. We had an incredible time, so let's do a quick recap. We arrived just now the second time I've seen the Black Rock Pride, and this morning was obviously the first. We couldn't find them. We looked on the rocks, we looked under the trees. Anyways, they were on top of the crest, and we had the lionesses, the 3 lionesses, coming down to collect the little ones, and then they went trotting off into the distance. So we raced on up ahead, and that's where we found a big male lion tucking into a warthog. But of course everybody charged in, all the very hungry cubs and hungry lionesses, they were quite lean, dived on top of the carcass. Then lions went scattering as the male lion was not happy, and one female managed to grab the warthog and run away. And then of course the big male was in hot pursuit, chased her off the kill again, and then he gobbled pretty much all of it going to happen. And that little cub that was being so brave and sort of sneaking underneath the paws of the big male lion that's with this pride, and basically tucked on a little bit of meat, and then the big male got up after he was finished, and that little lion grabbed the warthog's skull, what was left of it, and managed to get a meal. So I think that was a valuable lesson that that young cub learnt today on persistence, patience, bravery, all of those things. It checked all those boxes, because it was a bit nerve-wracking, especially with that male. He was growling a lot. He was saying how unhappy he was to have the cubs around, and that little one was just so persistent and ended up getting a reward. It was the only one that actually got a meal. So when they are up and playing a little bit later, we'll see the one that's got a full belly, or that has a bulging belly in comparison to the others. That was the brave one. So I'm quite excited to see exactly who it is. But the other lionesses are under there somewhere, and so is the male. And I don't think the male's going to be too worried about food right now, because he had an okay meal. But the other lionesses, I reckon, will wake up. Probably not right now. Or again, we know lions are opportunistic feeders. So if a group of warthogs come passing by, or a zebra or something like that, of course, it might all change, and they might get up. But that girl's up top on the rock, hoping to spot something for the rest of the pride. Now, Tom, you're wondering if there's always one adult male per pride? No, not at all. So the males form coalitions, although they can go off on their own. However, you're going to be more successful if there's more than one male. So typically, they will leave the pride together when they reach anywhere between 2.5 years and 3 years old. Whichever males are in that group would most likely join up. Of course, they've had a bond since birth or since very young, and then they'll go off together and form a coalition. So up here, we've obviously got the musketeers on the other side of the river, which is a beautiful coalition of males, and then my favorite, one of my favorites down on the Sabi Sands, which we also get to see, and hopefully you'll be able to see them a little bit later. I'm not sure who's actually driving between Noel, Tristan, James, and Steve, but hopefully they'll be able to find some big male lions, and the Birminghams, which are 4 of them. So that's how they typically do it, and they don't just see one pride, Tom, they see lots of different prides. So these males here, I've only ever seen one of them. I know there's a couple of them, but I'm not certain about them, and unfortunately I'm stuck in an area where there's no Wi-Fi, very little cell phone reception, so I'm not able to do enough research. I've got a lot of homework when I get home, you know. There's no relaxing for us. So I need to figure out what this group of males is called, but if you know, you can let me know, and if they've got names, maybe you can tell me who the one was that I was looking at this morning. And hopefully you'll see them a bit later too, so you can hashtag Safari Live. So they could have the Black Rock Pride, they could have another pride over there. They have a big territory that they'll move around in with females that have their sort of home ranges within a male's territory. So it can be 1 male, it can be 2 males, it can be 5 males. It just depends who's in charge at that moment. But for now, we've got sleepy cats. That's just one of those things though. Let me move around. Now, I'm just going to try and get us a better spot. Mia, you're wondering why they call the Black Rock Pride. It's because they live up on all these rocks that have got this sort of dark tinge to them. So that's why they're called the Black Rock Pride. They just live around here. Turn like this. I'm trying to avoid the sun because I'm finding it very warm. Look how flat she is too. Let's see. She doesn't even look like she's panting at the moment. I can't believe that. It's a great spot to suntan though. Oh, and look, a red-headed Angama bobbing its head up and down too, just in front of that lioness on that little rock. Now, we were actually talking about this a few weeks ago, about the lizards that jump on lions and eat the flies and things that hang around them, because as you can imagine, all the wild animals out here attract a lot of flies. The flies are wanting to get moisture from their nose, from the corner of their eyes, on any open wounds. And I think it was in Tanzania where these Angama lizards actually jump onto the lions and crawl around and try and catch the flies. Now, like I said, it is very windy out here today. It's actually been windy every single afternoon, so the camera might bob around a little bit. The whole car is shaking at the moment. I promise I'm sitting still for once, which is a difficult thing for me to do. But and then we were saying, would we ever see something like that on Safari Live? And I reckon this is our best bet. However, I have not seen any of the Angama lizards jumping on the lions. This morning, though, the little cubs ran around for a tiny bit longer. They were sort of going up and down when the adults were getting ready to settle under the shade of a tree. And one little cub didn't even chase an Angama, and it kind of just hung around at its feet. I was looking up at it, and that's all that really happened. I was quite impressed, because I know little lions like to chase things, anything that moves, in fact, from a butterfly to a grasshopper to a bird. So you would think something like a lizard running on a rock would make for a great toy, and at least a great game, or, well, I suppose it's not even just a game, it's a valuable opportunity to learn and practice some hunting techniques. I'm shocked that she's sitting up there. I really am. I mean, those rocks are absorbing all the heat, so not only has she got the sun baking down from above, she's also got the sun warming her bottom up. Tony, you said maybe she's warming her old bones, perhaps? Perhaps that's the case indeed. They don't look like young lionesses. These girls look well seasoned, like they've been around for a few years. That's a beautiful sight though. Today I have learned how diverse nature really is, and especially the different biomes within the Mara. I can't believe the things we've seen today. It has been absolutely phenomenal. We have had palm trees. We've had lots of different types of fig trees. We've had a number of different things. It's been really incredible. In fact, of different types of vegetation, all the little, like, not quite lagoons are the wrong things to use. I don't even know what they are, but there's just these sections of the lugger that I suppose have widened out in a bit of a marshy section, and it just kind of looks like paradise. It's really, really, really beautiful. I mean, I'm all for sitting with flat lions, but not really. And I know that these cats are not going to do anything right now because they've all got their heads tucked underneath their paws. We'll go around and try and reposition again. What we might do is go for a drive at some point and come back a little bit later. In an hour, about an hour, I would say, just so let it cool down a bit. Right, let's go around. Now, there's not much around at the moment. Like, I'm just trying to spot where the lions could go to look for something to eat, but I don't see any gatherings of zebra. I don't see any impala or topi, even a family of warthogs. There's a big tree down on bottom. It might be a sausage tree, so maybe we'll go and see if there's a bit of water. There is a bit of water down there, so maybe there's a warthog or two hanging around. Although I'm pretty sure the animals do realize that this is a hot spot for lions. The occasional one that slips up comes and has a look. There's some of the little cubs, but they're pretty sleepy at the moment. And they were running around quite a bit, so I'm sure they're tired. Now, Scarlett, you're wondering how old are these cubs? So Mr. Henry himself told me that they were born in July, so that makes them 5 months old now, which is very sweet. They are so cute and fluffy, and they just want to play. Look at that one. That one looks very unhappy. You're not enjoying the heat today. No, it doesn't look like it. And there aren't any big trees around here other than the odd sausage tree popped out everywhere, so these cats kind of have to lie in and amongst these shrubs, like that little one there sitting amongst all the branches. That can't be very comfortable. But I've seen lions and leopards and even hyenas and buffalo, the way that they sleep sometimes. I think to myself, I probably wouldn't be comfortable in that position, but it suits them. And then just to the left of that young cub is the big male lion that we were telling you about. He is a beautiful fella. So yeah, so if there's anything else that any of you know about the Black Rock Pride that I might not be able to read myself on Twitter, you can just hashtag Safari Live, or about this male and the rest of his group. Hashtag Safari Live, and then the directors will hopefully pass that information on to me. I haven't been able to even check and have a look at Twitter at all to see if you guys sent anything through this morning. Brad, you're wondering if the cubs that we've been looking at are in any danger from this male? No, not at all. He will be the father, at least he could have been. You know, with a coalition of males, the males will fight for dominance and will obviously want to breed with a female when she's in estrus. So they tend to take turns. So you don't really know who's the father if it's a coalition, but they're all in agreement that, right, regardless of what happens here, we will raise these offspring. But if a new male came into this area, yes, they would chase out the coalition that's here, and they would most certainly kill all these cubs. It's not very nice, and I haven't seen it, and I hope that I don't ever have to see it, to be honest, even though I know it's nature. It's not on the top of my list of things to see, so we'll just keep that for a few years once I'm more experienced and can handle it, because that would be a very, very sad thing to witness. You really see how cruel nature is, but it has to happen. The lions know this. If they want to spread their seed and hope that their offspring continue their bloodline, then that's what's got to happen, unfortunately. There you go, going back to sleep, just curling around some of those little shrubs. Very, very sleepy. But they might go for a drink, and there's a couple of spots that can get up and go and have a drink of water if they want to. But it doesn't look like they're going to. Very cool. He's panting a little bit. He's a bit hot. Now, Jared, buddy, you said that it's interesting or a bit strange that every time you see in the Black Rock Pride, this male's always been with them. I don't find that strange at all. Like we've just been talking about the coalitions of males, maybe he just enjoys the company of the females. I have seen it before, and I often talk about this with the Southern Pride and the Four-Ways males before the Charleston males came in and took over the southwestern corner of the Sabi Sand. They were inseparable. They were always together. They were always hunting together. They were always sharing meals together. There were very few times I saw the Southern Pride without the Four-Ways males at their sides. So he likes it. He obviously knows that if he hangs around with them, he's going to get a meal. He let the girls do the hard work, although we know that male lions aren't as lazy as they're made out to be. They do help a bit. However, then we can talk about the lions in the Sabi Sand and the Styx Pride. And there's one male lion named Nsuku, and he often stays with the Styx Pride, and he doesn't really do much. I've never seen him hunt ever, not once. And he always just tends to dive bomb on top of the kill when the lionesses have caught something. And so yeah, so he's normally around them most of the time. Maybe not so much at the moment. I believe the sticks have been seen without. Well, I haven't heard of any males being around, but that was a common sight to see for a few months in a row. So yeah, so it's not unusual. It definitely can happen, but you won't believe it that the other cubs are all tucked underneath that one shrub. Paul, you're wondering if there's ever been a case where a male lion has taken over and kicked. They did not like the Charleston males, not one little bit. I've never seen lionesses sneak away from male lions. The one night, and I've told this story before, we were following the line, the Southern Pride, and anyways, they carried on, and the next minute the males appeared, and they were trying to pick up on their scent. They were roaring, trying to get the attention of the girls, and they stayed quiet. And it was almost as if they tiptoed away from the boys. They moved so quickly through the thicket as soon as they heard them, and it was in the beginning of their reign, within like the first 2 months. And I think they were a bit skeptical, and also they had some young cubs. So it was quite clever what they did. They actually tricked the Charleston males. Some of the cubs that are in the Southern Pride are not fathered by the Charlestons, but in fact fathered by the Four-Ways males. But the one lioness actually hid her cubs away for a little bit longer. And then I don't know how miraculously they didn't get killed. Perhaps it was the Charleston males' inexperience. It was their first time they'd ever mated with females. I'm sure it was the first pride or takeover they've ever done. So thankfully, I think due to a number of things, from lack of experience, and then as well as that lioness hiding her cubs for such a long time, they're going to grow up now. It's the set of the oldest cubs. I think there's 4 of them, or they were 4. And so yeah, so things like that will happen every now and then. I'm sure there's the odd case where the lioness has just said no, especially if it's a big group of females and only one male. He won't stand a chance. And so yeah, if they all pack together, lionesses can be exceptionally dangerous and could definitely cause some harm to a male lion. Obviously, one-on-one, a male lion is much bigger in terms of weight and height, in strength, much stronger, and could quite easily kill a lioness. So, but girls have got fight in them too, and they can stand on their own and would be able to defend themselves and chase away a male if need be. Right, I think we might go for a little bit of a bumble, do a few loops and laps and see what else we can find in this area. I've never been around here before. Ralph has finally managed to beat the gremlins. Let's go and say good afternoon to him.
Thanks, Taylor, and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome aboard the afternoon game drive. You're with Safari Live, and we've been driving around all day. We've got all sorts of stories to tell you, but for now, we're staring here at a male elephant walking through the plains. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and I've got Manu on the camera with me. We've been out all day once again, and it's been an absolutely wonderful day. Please join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Please send us your questions and your comments. Get involved as much as possible. This is, after all, the largest game drive in the world. Result of us It's as a result of exactly that, folks. We've been running along all the little lagers and all the little places that all the kitty cats might be hiding out, and as a result of that, we've been struggling a little bit with the gremlins. So we've come up on top of a hill here just to spot this elephant, but also to make sure that we can get our signal and we can join on the drive with Taylor. I can't let her have all the fun on her own, and so, well, I have to continue on from this afternoon's game drive because we left you, this morning's game drive, because we left you while we were sitting with those two cheetah. The mom and her son, Niale, and her son, and they were flat at that stage, but they had been moving around and looking for prey, but at a moment they went on top of a termite mound and they went to sleep. So we stayed with them the rest of the morning, and they eventually went down under the shade, and so we also went and had a little snooze. I promise I only had a 5-minute snooze, but all of a sudden they both got up and they started to walk across to a big herd of zebra, and there were all sorts of other animals walking around there, and we were then absolutely sure that we were in the right place at the right time. And so we circled around. We anticipated where she would be going to hunt, with her young son still trying to wipe the sleep out of his eyes. He was trailing behind a little bit, but folks, we managed to get a little clip that we took of what happened after that, and so we would like to show you, and we're going to be going to that right now. So take a look at this. So, folks, that was just the excitement that we had after leaving you, unfortunately, but we stayed out the whole day, and that's what I love about the bush and exactly why I do what I do. So, thanks for having looked at that, and now we're going to continue on and see what else we can find. After those cheetah, we did move on and find a number of lions, but they were all lying up in the shade because it's been quite hot this afternoon, so they were very quiet, and so we decided to continue on our exploring, and we are just taking all the roads that look like they might lead along the lagers with potential animals in them, and we're just spotting animals on top of hills and all over the place. We're just really enjoying ourselves. And as we sit with this young male feeding across the plains, I love how elephants grab the grass and push with the foot. Anupam, you're wondering at what age do the tusks stop growing? Well, it's probably at around 50 years of age, at a similar time to when they get their last set of teeth. Because remember, your teeth do continue to grow a little bit all the time, but at about 50 years old, that's when they probably slow down towards the end of their lives. But they do continue to grow, and if they break off, they will obviously remain blunt at the point of break, but they will continue to grow. So you'll still have, even if it was broken at the base, you'll still have quite a bit coming through. But it also depends a lot on what they feed on, and if they're getting all the minerals in their diet, because obviously they do need a lot of calcium to produce these big tusks. So, and I have spoken about it before, in places in Botswana, their tusks are very brittle because of a lack of calcium. So when you see areas like this in the Masai Mara, when they've got wonderfully looking tusks and not worn down, not any breakages, it's obvious that they're getting a very well balanced diet. And the elephants, for instance, that I've noticed in the Eastern Cape region of South Africa, the naturally occurring ones there, it's very interesting that it all comes down to genetics and a balanced diet and, well, a lot of solitude. And this elephant is getting lots of that. Right, we're going to go and see what else we can find. But in the meantime, let's send you off to Taylor with one of those animals that love wallowing in the mud.
Well, we've also got one of those animals that the lions were eating this morning, and I'm wondering if this sow is perhaps missing a piglet. There are 3 here, but they kind of look the same size as the one that the male lion was devouring this morning. And we're not very far away. We're just on top of the hill, and we know that that's where the lions hunted. So might have been a scary situation for this girl and her youngsters. There's also, of course, some zebra that you would have noticed swishing their tails. The lions actually don't have to go too far. They were just out of our view because of the crest. They're maybe only 250 meters away, 300 meters away from where those lions are. And it's not great for the lions though, because the wind is blowing straight down towards where the zebra and warthogs are. So that means if they wanted to hunt, they'd have to go all the way around and get onto the other side of the zebra in order to have the wind in their favor. Otherwise, the lion's scent will just blow straight down to them, and then the zebra and warthogs will realize that there's something coming for them and will probably run away. So I'm always between, a hard and a rock place where who do I support, the lion or the predator or the prey? But this time around, those sweet little cubs are so adorable, and they didn't get a meal this morning. Sacrifice yourself. I think I might be a bit dehydrated. I definitely don't think I've drank enough water today. Maybe that is why my tongue keeps getting stuck on my palate. But yeah, that was quite cool. So maybe they walk in that direction. Maybe those warthogs actually had their burrow there because it was fairly early this morning. Maybe they go back. I'm wondering if warthogs have so many piglets because they get eaten so frequently. You've hit the nail on the head there. That is spot on, 100% correct. They have lots of youngsters, and because the chances of them all making it to adulthood are very, very slim. If any of them make it, or if 1 or 2 of them make it, you'll be lucky. So that's exactly why. And they become such an easy target for so many different predators. Unfortunately, the little piglets are fairly quick, but they're not quite coordinated, and they get flustered. Well, in my opinion, they get flustered quite easily. And when animals start to panic, and you're not concentrating and doing what you have to do, for example fleeing, running away, you make a mistake, and that's often the ones that get taken by predators. And you'll see animals watching the predators, just sitting there watching herds, seeing who's being the silly one, who's maybe got a bit of a limp, who's going to be the easiest target. Or if you're like a cheetah, sometimes you just run in and hope that then you encourage the weak link to stand out. Right, those zebra though are having a good scratch though, cleaning the stripes towards the back on the rump, which is a good place to help someone out, because I think it's a bit difficult for a zebra to bend its body all the way around. shallow grooming is one of the best ways to do so. But it's looking very dry and grim out here. Although the Sand River is flowing like you have absolutely no idea. I can't believe how full it is because it was up so much, and I also have never been through that particular crossing. It's quite a big crossing. And if I got stuck down there, I'd probably still be stuck down there, and Archie and I would be lost forever. Hey Archie? We had no cell phone reception, no radio comms, no nothing. So we thought, unless we have a support vehicle with us that can tow us out, let's rather not. And also we don't want to wet the equipment. So for the first time ever, I said no to an adventure. Can you believe it? But very cool to see the zebra. Maybe they're going to walk straight towards those lions. I think that could be the ideal situation. Tom, you're wondering if it's possible to domesticate a zebra? In my opinion, no, because I've had lots of friends who have tried and failed miserably, and they've just kicked and bitten and chopped and reared and just been horrible creatures when you try and domesticate them. They become so cheeky. If any of you are familiar with the attitude of a very naughty pony, times that by 10 and that's a zebra. They're an absolute nuisance in my opinion. I've been bitten by a zebra before. Friends, the mare died and then it was on their farm, so they tried to raise the youngster and they did, they released it. But it was a nightmare when it was little. So there was a doctor once that rode a zebra around. However, they're not... Excuse me! Goodness gracious, I'm back on the sneezing. Got the attention of one zebra though. I'm wondering, what is that? So in my opinion, no, I don't think you can fully domesticate a zebra like you could with a horse. They still just have that wild streak in them. They want to be free. And that's fine. They deserve to be free. What is that down there, Archie, at 1 o'clock? Are those buffalo? Whatever it is, it's a massive herd of something in the distance. I'm just scanning around me to see, the opportunities that could arise for these lions. Yes, a big herd of Cape buffalo, all moving this way slowly as well. That's what that pride of lions needs. Although a zebra would do them good as well. That would be fine. Here, buffalo. I'm joking. They're wild. They'd run away from you. They'd be petrified if you shouted that at them. But they were all grazing, and that could be a good spot. The grass is still nice. Pleasant. Right. Moving on. Let's go see what else we can find. There's so many animals up top here. Lots and lots. Now that I'm starting to look around, more and more things are starting to pop up. And hopefully those lions know that. Come on, girls. Come this way. But maybe she's just taking the opportunity now, and that's why she's sat up on top of that rock, just to see if there's anything close by, anything easy that she could make an attempt on. But once it cools down, she'll probably get on the move with the other two lionesses, and maybe that male joins in, who knows. I don't know him very well and what he likes. And they'll hopefully come up top here and hunt away. Hi, zebra. Bye. Francis, you're wondering if there's any animals that are endangered in the Mara? Yeah, black rhinos is one of them. So yeah, they're around. I've still not ever seen a pangolin. Southern ground hornbills. Some, there will be a whole lot of them. And probably a few more bird species. They're not necessarily endangered, but their population is so isolated. Maybe they only occur in a small part of Kenya. You get that all over. So yeah, there's a few, but we're lucky. We get to... We haven't seen a pangolin yet. Sorry, the gremlins got me there. My bad. No, not my bad. Gremlins bad. For those of you that have no idea what a gremlin is and you're looking around trying to spot this bird that want to go and swim. Maybe we will go and drive along that lugger. I don't know how our signal will be down there though. How do I even get there? Is there a road? Doesn't really look like there's a road. I'm just searching. I don't know this area very well. We're on one of the main roads now. Let me... I have to stop now. Off they go. There, the piglets are going to cross the road now too. Mom's already crossed. Look how quickly the piglets are going to go. It's going to be so quick. Oh, there they are. They're out in the open. They're so cute. No, because you're so far away, they're quite relaxed as well. Do you even know what Mom ran from? Here they go. Whee! Now it's important that they don't stay too far away from Mom, because that's, again, if they become separated, they've got no one to protect them. And Mom Warthog will protect her youngsters too. I've seen lots and lots of female Warthog chasing Chitwa away as they've tried to charge after the youngsters. Excuse me, zebra, this is not your moment to shine. We're actually talking about the Warthogs. I mean, goodness gracious, how rude. Another one. Get out of here. You've had your chance this afternoon. Yes. Right, and stay out. Stealing the poor Warthog's moment of fame. That's terrible. Anyways, so there they are. So that's always a funny thing. I've even seen Warthogs chasing leopards around before. I haven't seen Warthogs chasing lions. But they could. A big ball could quite easily give a lion a run for its money, especially an inexperienced lion that didn't know what it was doing. We know they're armed with those very, very sharp tusks. They've also got exceptionally thick skin. I can't believe how thick a warthog's skin is actually. I always talk about Emma, the little warthog that was at one of the camps I was working at, we found. And, well, she's no longer there anymore. She's on someone else's farm. So, yeah, right, we're moving now. Let's go. See what else we can find. What else have we got? I do want to find a road that goes down here though. I don't know if there are any. Normally you can see the roads fairly easy as you're kind of driving along. You know, they just see like a line just going through the grass, but I don't see any around here, which is a pity. Hang on, what's that? No, that looks like it was an old road, and it's all grown over now, so I won't be opening up that track again. It was obviously closed for a reason. Okay, we're on one of the main roads now. They're super bumpy. Mr. P, wondering if there's an animal that I haven't seen yet that I crave to meet. I don't know if I'm craving to meet any of the animals. I really would like to see a pangolin, seeing as though we were talking about it. I think they could be really fascinating to sit and watch. Striped polecat was on my list of things to see, but I managed to see one of them while I was here. So that's now checked. That was a new one. I'm trying to think. There's lots of animals that I haven't seen. Maybe not necessarily in the Masai Mara. I want to see a whale. I know this is completely random, but this is something I would like to see. I'd like to be stand-up paddling and a big whale come past. Actually, it doesn't even have to be a big one. It can even be a southern right whale. That's fine. That would be very cool. Not a shark though, because I will have a heart attack. I don't want to see any sharks, not even in a boat. I probably won't though. The chance of me actually bumping into one is very slim. But just to let nature know anyways. Although now nature has a sixth sense of humour when it comes to me. So what will probably happen is I'll have a swarm of sharks around me and it'll just be my worst nightmare. But luckily, no chance of seeing a shark out here in the Mara. Thankfully. Right, we're going to keep bumbling. I think I might try and take one of these roads that run along the lake. Very nice, are they? Let's go and see if he's managed to relocate a cheetah or perhaps find another elephant.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, well, we're still on the road and we're just having a look around all these little lagers, and I hope you enjoyed that little clip earlier. And to put it into perspective, here in the Mara it's very low grass, so as opposed to the Mara Triangle where we don't really see too many cheetah there at present. Here there's a lot of cheetah and with very short grass, and so once you locate some cheetah and they look like they haven't eaten for a few days, then following them is a good idea, and sitting with them and being patient. And so that's what we did today, and it was very obvious that eventually it was going to result in an exciting moment, because they tried already in the morning and they didn't succeed. So it was an afternoon. Once they started to go for a group of animals, it was only obvious what was going to happen next. And we had actually identified those two little topi that were hiding behind the termite mound, that when she came jogging would probably be the first to tickle her interest, because they were unaware of her coming. As for them, it would have taken them a while to get going, and which is exactly what happened. And a lovely sighting that. Yeah, somebody has to die for somebody else to survive in nature with predators, and so that little one lost its life, but the cheetah, it was, what a fantastic moment. So that was all great and dandy, but now we've got another job on hand, and that is to find some more animals. And here we're coming up to a very big, almost riverine section, a lot of big trees, and with these big open plains like this and quite bare, I think very often, especially when it's hot in the afternoon, my thoughts are you're going to find all the predators down next to the river or in the lagers under the shade, and they also use that as points from whence they plan their attack. So I think this might be all the way near to the Sand River, but I'll check my map in a minute. We haven't had a look at the map for quite a while, so we've just been following our noses. She kept on looking over her shoulder downwind from where she caught that little topi. So she was quite aware that potentially there would be some animals coming around, but once they opened it up, they fed on it very fast, and you could see their stomachs almost growing by the minute, and they pretty much flattened it off. They ate it from the hind end. That's what a lot of the soft meat, and then going in from there. Sometimes they push the intestines to the side, and then they go for the liver, the kidney, and the heart, which is very rich. And if they was done, it was obvious that they were happy, and they left a very small little carcass with some bones and skin and pretty much the head, so they didn't eat that. Now folks, I am going down a little bit into a dip, so I hope that we don't start losing picture and the gremlins bite back, but it is worth a little look here, because we've had so much rain in the last couple of evenings that the rivers have started to swell. So it's quite nice to see a lot of flow of water. Last night where we stay in Talek, just next to the rooms, we have the little Talek river that was running, and when we got there it was a tiny little stream. But over the next couple of nights with the heavy rain that we had, it turned into quite a torrent. And so this morning we woke up with the lovely sound of rapids running by just in front of our room. So I'm going to stop right here because there's a lovely little bird on the branch there, Manu, if you can get it before it flies off, which is always the difficulty with birdies. And that looks like a little bee-eater. I think it is indeed a little bee-eater. And remember, they perform what we call hawking, so they very often sit on a branch like that, and fork-tailed drongos also do it very adeptly, and from that point they'll fly up or to the side and catch an insect and then come straight back to the branch. So it's almost like a little circular or figure of 8 flight. Long bill to keep the venomous stings of bees and wasps and from the distance, a very high-pitched squealy noise, probably roosting in these trees. There's lots of olive trees around this particular area, the last little bit that we've been seeing, and their leaves almost point up, so it's quite easy to see them. But those ones there, there's also the fig trees, lovely big fig trees that we've been seeing, and the saffrons, and there's a fig tree over there. They've with quite a yellow bark on it. And that tree is such an amazing plant because it provides food for such an array of animals, from jackals to African green pigeons and nyala and all sorts of other creatures, and baboons and bank, which was very steep. You could see these tracks going down into the river, and it was just like a baboon playground. It was absolutely immense how they just continued to play all day. They went and fed a little bit, they went and drank some water, and then they were back in the trees playing. And some of the big males were just enforcing, all moving along the banks, and with the water levels having risen, it's nice for them to go wading in the new newly covered water patches, because you'll have a lot of insects and larvae and things trying to escape the water because it's become waterlogged now. So a wonderful scene here. It's actually very nice to get back down to a river scene, because it's been a long day of dry, open plains. There's a 3-banded plover, also a little wader that runs along the banks, always right next to the shore, the water line, as they catch little flies and insects there along the bank. Very nice to see, but we don't see any hippos or crocodiles here. We did see some hippos a little earlier out of the water next to a stream, but here is a little bit quiet. So, folks, nice little spot, this lovely place just to pull in and see if there was anything around. It does seem a little bit quiet, however, so I think let's go and see what else we can find. Folks, I think we're having those little scratchies, the gremlins, so we're going to hit you off to the mountain cam and try and get you back in a minute.
We'll try and find some of them. So I don't know what it was. I think it was a white-headed buffalo weave, but I mean, let's actually just have a look. I've got to use the gears. My brakes are not really working too well. I'm going to find it. This is always the hard part. So, it'll probably be around bees, hey? Well, let's just be weaver. Let's see. It's a big book. No, must be at the back then. Let's see. Weaver, weaver, weaver. Weaver, weaver. That'll be a long section. White-headed. No. Why can't I find it? Buffalo weaver. Where are you in my book? I don't like it when things like this happen and you have to just watch me as I can't find it in here. There we go. Ah, there it is. Hidden. White-headed. 656. 656. Okay, almost there, I promise. Sorry, everyone. And I'll show you a picture. I think it is 656. Goodness gracious, I'll just need to get the app. The app would be so much easier. Next page. Yes! Cool! I was on one of those today. I was so shocked. Number 3. I apologize, my hands are filthy. I've washed them about 500 times today, but every time I touch the car, they just get filthy. It's the worst thing in the whole world. That's the thing about being a guide. If you don't like your hands getting dirty, then it's not the greatest job. I've had to learn to live with it. But I saw a group of these in the grass, and then some sitting in the trees getting some shade, but they were very cool, very pretty birds. That red rump really stands out. It's more like a crimson color. It was so bright from a distance. That's what actually caught my attention. So I saw a couple of those. So that was nice, a new one to add to the list, which was very cool. Right, let me close my book. And off we go. I'll have to do some rearranging. Ooh, come on, car. Linda, you were wondering how did I identify that bird? I'm not sure what the end part of that was, unfortunately. I actually have already... Oh, when it's so small. There we go. That was the end of the question. It actually wasn't a very small bird. They're quite big. Let's see. Let's see if I can find a picture to actually show you. Bigger than the size of my hand. Oh, I saw ostrich chicks today too. You zoom in. It was quite far away. So, if you have a look, it's going to be a bit difficult. Sorry, because of the glare. Can you see it? You can sort of see it. It's... There we go. Is that better? Yeah. Sorry, there is a bit of a glare, so it's not great. But they're quite big, and because they're white, black, and then, like I said, that red rump stands out, you can see them quite easily on the grass. So there's one there. So that was quite cool. And then I wasn't exactly sure as to what it was. I was like, oh my goodness, I've never seen anything like this. But its call sounded very weaver-like because it was tweeting, as I don't have the call, unfortunately. So I was like, okay, it sounds a bit weaver-like. And then I was like, hang on, wait, Brent and Jamie have been speaking about white-headed buffalo weavers, and I haven't seen them yet. I've seen the white-headed barbet, though. That was cool. So yeah, so then I just thought, I needed to identify that bird, so I thought I'd do it now. While I remembered. And nature is so funny. There's not a thing out here at the moment. Not even a warthog. Matt, you're wondering if there's any way to increase the number of trees here, or do the elephants keep eating them? Actually, a lot of these shrubs that are growing in these open places aren't even trees. Like I said, they're shrubs, so they wouldn't get more than 2 or 3 meters at most. And the elephants will keep them pruned nicely, so will the impala. There's lots of animals that feed on leaves. And we see in the Sabi Sands, the zebra and the buffalo also eat leaves when there's nothing else to eat. Here, though, I highly doubt that leaves would be a big part of a buffalo or a zebra's diet, just because there's so much grass around, so there's no need for them to change their diet at all. So unless you came in and you planted tons and tons of trees, you're probably not going to make too much of a difference. And it is natural. Remember, there's so much food around. These areas will get an opportunity for the elephant or to recover from any browsing that has occurred. And to be honest, you don't see a lot of elephants out here. Today we saw a small herd. Oh, it was so sad. One little one had a broken leg. I don't know how long this little elephant had a broken leg for, but it was keeping up with the herd fine. It just wasn't putting any weight on it. You could see it was just not happy. There wasn't a wound or anything. It was an internal break. So I think that elephant will be fine. I've seen elephants and giraffe with legs, the bones that have sort of fused in an interesting way. Obviously they've broken them and they've had no help because they're living out in the wild, and then carrying on just fine. So it was eating, it was even having a little swim in the water, it was trying to spray itself in the trunk, so probably in a bit of pain, I'm sure, but it was still going on with life. It knows that if it doesn't, it's not going to survive, so it was sad. So I think today I've maybe seen like 6 elephants the whole day, that's it. So I don't think there's too much damage that's being done in this particular area with the elephants. Everyone seems to be in the triangle at the moment. Loads of ellies, and we see them swimming across from the Masai Mara Reserve most evenings. They've gone there to graze for a little bit, and then they come back and then head to the forests and do their thing. And then the same thing happens almost every single day. So as long as there's big wide open spaces, it's fine if big herds of elephants come through and demolish an area. It's natural. And it'll have some time to recover. So when you put fences up, all sorts of problems start, and of course the trees take an absolute hammering when something like that happens. And again, we were talking about this other day. You're not allowed to cut firewood in any reserves, in fact, and they're pretty strict about it here. And a lot of people have been caught either collecting firewood and wanting to take it back home. So not only are the animals that's blamed, it's us as humans that cause problems as well with getting rid of all the trees. I'm just having a look. I'm in that area of the Black Rock Pride, but I don't know if I want to go all the way down there again if they're sleeping. Let me quickly scan. No, even that lioness is not on that rock anymore. Well, it doesn't look like it, at least. Okay, we'll come back. It's also very quiet here. Debbie, you were wondering if that little elephant would be in any trouble from predators. Most certainly, yeah. It's got a serious injury. So if a big pride of lions managed to separate it from the herd, then absolutely. But it's just one of those things. It happens. Imagine it could provide a good meal for pride lions with lots of young cubs. Maybe that elephant is supposed to survive though and is going to outwit all the predators even with its injury. That would be a great success story. Fortunately it's in an area where we can't go. Now, oh, there's our lioness. That's why I couldn't see her. I'll show you from up top here. Let me go around a little bit. Okay, we'll do a quick loop and we'll say hello to our lioness. But everybody's still sleeping under the tree. And she's quite flat and horizontal as well. Now, I'm not
We are struggling a little bit with those gremlins, but I tell you, if it wasn't for the gremlins, we wouldn't be looking at what we are looking at right now. And the reason behind that is because I've had to come and get a very high point so that we could get good signal. And we had a lovely view, and that's what was in front of us. So thank you, gremlins. You've made our day once again. And these female lions, I think there was a third, but it looks like they might be on the hunt. That would be very lucky of us indeed to come across another group of hunting lions after having a small group of hunting cheetah this morning, even though that female did it all on her own. The male was a little bit of nondescript in that hunt. But here we go, these females moving through. Is that what I think it is? Yep, they're going down. And she looks like she's lactating, so probably got cubs. There's a third one lagging behind somewhere, but a lovely sight this. See them moving through the shortish grass. It's a little bit longer than where we've been, and certain plains are totally mowed and others a little bit longer, and I do think it's probably down to the quality of the grass on each different plain. Maybe some have been overgrazed, and such as this one, and then they start pushing through unpalatable and non-tasty grasses and restabilize the area, and then the animals don't like to feed on that, so the natural succession then takes place. But for the most part, it's very short grass on this side of the Mara Reserve, and so very easy to watch when there's predators taking on prey. But what a lovely sight that is, looking out over the landscape. It's quite hot this afternoon. I've caught a little bit of the sun. I didn't put on sunscreen earlier, so I was a bit late on it. So I burnt my little nose. But so that's probably the reason why these lions have gone and laid up a little bit. Maybe just resting, see if they can spot a target, as the cheetah did this morning as well. Once they distinguish that there is something across on the other side of the plain that they could potentially take out, then they start to make their approach. But it starts by them sitting in the brush and looking out and waiting for a likely customer. So they can be resting, but they can also be watching and just waiting for any unlucky passerby to come into view. We also saw lovely herds of buffalo earlier. And so it's been a fantastic day, long day, but this is what I live for. So it is fantastic to see all of these predators. I've never seen such a concentration of predators in my life. Now, Veronique, you're wondering if I've noticed any differences between the lions here in the Mara and the ones in Djuma. Veronique, for the most part, the lions in Djuma, and I'm talking now the Styx Pride and the Nkahuma Pride, it seems that they're quite adept at taking on buffalo, which is something that I really love about lions when they start to specialize in big animals. And for the lions in the Mara Triangle, and it's not only me that has witnessed this, but also Brent having said it to me, is that it seems like they're quite happy picking off warthogs for the most part of the year, and obviously when it's around the migrations, then they're taking on the easy pickings around the crossings. But for the rest of the year, he says that it seems that they almost enjoy just the easy meal of a warthog. And I do know that the other day we had that young hippo that was killed, and Taylor also had zebra. So there is the odd differences with their meals, but so for the most part it seems that the difference between the lions in Djuma is that they like to take on buffalo, whereas here it's quite a more mixed range of animals, and lots of warthog in there as well. And I don't know if they eat too many warthog there in Djuma. Those lions, seems they almost follow the buffalo around. So it's a bit different out here. Very big open plains, and there are lots of warthog, so it does make sense. They do act a little bit silly sometimes. I've seen them almost walking right up to lions and then get eaten. So they're not the brightest of the animal kingdom, and I do very much like the depiction in the Lion King of Pumbaa, because that character is portrayed for me perfectly. And all of the characters are actually, and even the Simba and Nala. There's a very Nala looking like female lion right there. A lot of flies on them at the moment as well. A very slow moving fly. We've been attacked by them as well, sitting next to the cheetah and the lions. They've been all over us, but I don't sit around and let them crawl over my face like the lions do. They normally meet an untimely death. But yeah, we can only hope that this female potentially spots something out there on the other side of the plains. But don't forget to get involved, folks, and send us your questions and your comments. And this game drive is, in the most part, for all of you. I know I've been having lots of fun today, but it's so that I can bring these kind of pictures to all of you and try and get those magical moments, like with the cheetah chasing that young topi. that's what we want to bring to everybody out there. So please get involved, and we'll love to answer your questions and comments. But now it's seeming a bit quiet. Now, Richard, you're asking the question, why don't the lions migrate after the wildebeest? Well, because it's a little bit, that's quite a good question. Why don't they just follow them? But the answer is that lions hold a territory. And so if they move out of that territory following the wildebeest, they're going to get into trouble with their neighbor who's got his own territory there. So it's a little bit more difficult for the lions to just up and leave. They've got neighbors that are quite happy where they are. They don't want these lions in their territory, and they'll just be sending them packing back into theirs. So there would be a lot of fights if lions had to just follow the wildebeest, and you do have some of the young males that would attempt to do this, but they'd very quickly realize that they can't just follow the animals, because they need to pay attention to whose territory they're crossing. If they don't, they could also land up having an untimely death, like these slow-moving flies around here. But we haven't seen any other animals out on the plains just yet. There's the odd Kangoni, or the Coke's hartebeest, which I've seen a lot more in this southern section, the southeastern section of the Mara Reserve, which I don't see. I've only seen the odd one on the Mara Triangle. I've seen quite a few more here. And there's one of our usual suspects. It's a little bit far though for these lions. If this was cheetah, I think they would have already started to make their approach, but for lions that would be a lot of energy expenditure for a little snack. That'll probably take up the energy it took for them to catch the warthog, and so it would hardly even touch sides. But they did look like they were on the move a little bit earlier, and it wasn't, I think, in the intent of going and lying up in the shade, but it looks like they're proving me wrong. So maybe we should get a little bit closer there, Manu, and see if we can have a nicer view of them. Let's hope the gremlins don't bite us, but it did seem we had reasonable signal just over there. So let's utilize our off-road permit and carry on off-road. But we have to look out for those aardvark holes, especially after the last few days 4x4ing. It's been really fun. I've got stuck and nearly stuck a few times, and we just stopped short of crossing a river just now, and Manu said, no, go for it, and I said, that one I wasn't quite too sure, just because of how the river had risen overnight. So I thought we'd rather not do that in the middle of the show and get stuck and also make Taylor's day. That would, I think I can find other ways of making a day other than getting stuck. But I'm sure she would find that very amusing. Now, Manu, where are they? A little bit further on, no. Oh, there they are. Sorry, I was talking to you and I lost sight of where I'd actually had my lions. I think we might go around the other side. Now, Sankit, you're wondering, a very good question, Sankit. You're wondering how much area does a typical lion's territory cover? It all depends, Sankit, on the particular area that they're living in. For instance, in a more arid area, such as parts of Namibia, it would be much larger than these areas here in the Masai Mara, because there's a lot more of the resources, so more food for the lions, and then their territories can be much smaller. It's very similar to on the other side, on the Mara Triangle. I could not believe how many prides of lions there are in a very small space, and that it must be because there is a lot of resources and a lot to go around. But if that was in parts of Namibia or the southern parts of Botswana or Zimbabwe, you wouldn't have such big groups of lions being so close to each other. So to answer your question, Sankit, it can be literally from about 5 football fields, which it seems to be around the Mara Triangle, to areas that are maybe half the size of France. It's in parts of Namibia, where you'll have prides there that'll cover massive distances, and there's not many of them, and the resources are few and far between as well. So they will walk massive distances, marking their territory, roaring in the night, and that's how it then works. And I have just heard some thunder. Manu, I hope we're not going to get wet again, but it does look like behind us, towards the Olololo escarpment. I wonder if they're getting wet at camp, because it's looking very ominous on that side, and it seems like the rain has actually started to come down. It's probably heading towards us. It's that kind of feel to it at the moment, that kind of hot temperature that's normally leading up towards a afternoon thunderstorm. And there you can see that greyness in the back. It's difficult to judge, but that is where that thunder came from, and I'm pretty sure it's already raining in the back there. But nonetheless, we've still got 2 hungry looking female lions here, and they keep on very interestingly looking across over the plains. So I still think they're trying to identify dinner, and if we sit here long enough, we might see them catch it. These are 2 very big female lions, and look at all that muscle, a little bit of loose skin around the neck, but they are huge. Very good looking as well. Now, Jen, you're wondering if lions' territories can get smaller, for instance, around the migration when there's a fight for food and that. Yes, they can fluctuate. So, I mean, if you look at a lion's territory, it's not a perfect line where if you had to draw a line down the road and then you say, okay, you're not allowed on this side of the road. It's similar, but there's no line. So it's an imaginary line where these lions will go around and mark, and if another animal comes near to that area, it's normally if the resources are low, especially, that there will be massive fights around those boundaries. But when the resources are flooded, then they do pretty much relax their boundaries, because they're not really too worried about conflict. Remember, conflict is not, one lion attacking the other just for no reason. It's a real energy input, as much as the lions would put their energy into chasing down a warthog or a waterbuck to gain energy from the food that they would eat. The energy that they put out to chase away other potential competition is also directly related to the energy that they need to be saving by maintaining a territory. So if it's worth the while for them to maintain that boundary at that specific point, because the resources are low, and if they don't, that they'll have potential other lions eating up their resource, then they will defend it very, very strongly. But once there's lots of resource, then they don't need to. So it's all about energy expenditure, and when there's lots of resources, everybody seems to relax, which generally goes with all populations, I think. I think if we see even with humans, if the resources are very easy to obtain, people are very easy-go-lucky as well. But as soon as things start getting scrimped and there's not much to go around, then everybody starts fighting over the scraps. And so that's the way it works in nature, and we are no different. But wonderful to talk about different territories and home ranges. So with lions, generally their home range is very similar to their territory, because a territory is only the area which will be defended. But you have a lot of other animals that will move in massive home ranges but have very different territories, or much smaller territories. So you can have that with rhino, and white rhino do it in particular. So they'll have very big home ranges, but only a very small area that they'll actually defend. And that just goes to show that there's different tactics and different survival strategies. And there's an animal surviving right all behind this lion's ears, probably in its ears. Those ticks there, parasites. You get 2-stage life cycle ticks, and you also get 3-stage life cycle ticks. So they can also get quite interesting as well. So I'd love to get into the intricacies of ticks and their life cycles, but when you come back, we'll possibly chat about that or any of your other questions and comments. In the meantime, let's send you on over to Taylor, who I think is doing something quite bizarre.
You're probably all wondering, Taylor, get back in the car! What are you doing out there again, you rebellious girl, you? I'm allowed to be here, I promise. So I just wanted to show you this beautiful spot. We're not too far from the lions. Lions are down there somewhere. Lots and lots of black rocks around. But Archie and I, after we left the lion sighting, eventually we came across the most beautiful scene. And I was green with envy because there were camping chairs placed here, a little bit further back. I think they may have actually been under the fig tree. So there were camping chairs, and then a beautiful little wooden table with a nice tablecloth and a whole tea station set out. And then it looked like they were eating something as well, so maybe they were having some yogurt and muesli and fruit, but it looked amazing. So can you picture yourself out here in the middle of the Masai Mara National Reserve, just sitting watching lions in the distance? And they were here for quite some time. They may have even seen those lions make a kill from a distance. And then I also wanted to feel how hot the rocks were. Yeah, they're warm. I can't believe that cat is actually sitting outside there. I bet she all thought I was going to trip and fall. Hey, didn't. For once. It would have been awkward because I probably would have started bleeding if I fell on those rocks. Right, let me hop back in very quickly. I also wanted to stretch my legs, so I used that all as an excuse because I get very bored sitting in the car for such long periods. It's not bored, but anxious. So it was so nice. Imagine watching the sunrise. Oh, that would be nice. Especially if the sun would rise, imagine, through that gap, Archie, over there. Put your chairs. That would be very cool between the hills. Strawhead, you said yup. Sounds like heaven. It is. Close. Very, very close. But this would make the perfect spot for the lions as well. But they've got plenty of rocks to choose from. It wouldn't surprise me if they came up here. Of course, no one would get out of the car before checking. So there are lots of these not designated sundowner stops, but favorite spots that people will stop to have their morning tea and coffee or have a little sundowner, use the luxury facilities, just get out and stretch the legs. Especially if you're doing an all-day safari, it's very important that you do stop a couple of times, get the blood flowing in parts of your body that may have just been sitting still. Well, I don't know what to do. I'm just sort of bumbling for the moment. The wind is picking up. There's definitely some rain on the way. I could hear the thunder rumbling in the distance. And speaking of rain, it sounds like it's pouring down in the Sabi Sands. But I'm very happy about that because it's very dry and they've been they've been needing rain for quite some time. So I hope it stops now for the safari because it's never nice doing a game drive in the pouring rain. And I hope then that it starts pouring just as the safari finishes, once all the vehicles are back and under cover, and then it can pour right through the night. It's be a nice slow soaking rain. That's what I'm hoping for anyways. Sometimes a big downpour is not necessarily the greatest thing. A lot of soil erosion happens then. Now Dib, you're wondering which area gets more rain, the Sabi Sand or the Mara? Definitely the Mara. I'm not actually sure of the rainfall. Rolf has got my book, my Mara book, which I must get back. So maybe we can pass that question on to Rolf, seeing as though he's got the information with him. I know the rainfall, the average rainfall is in that book, but it'll be a lot more. I mean, even in like a month's rainfall here, will probably equal an entire year's rainfall in the Sabi Sand. It doesn't get much. The Sabi Sand, I think that area is about 1,000 mils of rain, between 600 and 1,000 mils of rain, somewhere around there. I think further down south in the Sabi Sand, they tend to have a bit more rain than up in the north, being slightly drier. But yeah, I like the rain. Archie and I have been discussing for most of the day. We're trying to figure out where it's been raining a whole lot. Obviously, we've seen it, and we've tried to avoid it and escape it. But the Sand River was up, the Talik River this morning. Oh my goodness, it was double the height from what we left it yesterday. It was raging. So it's obviously raining somewhere, and all the water's gathering and then flushing down the river. So we have to be a bit careful with the crossings. And water, as quickly as the water level does rise, though, it does drop too, just after a few hours, in fact. Right. Well, we might see if we can find those Rupel starlings again. We're coming to another thicket, and lots of the birds are trying to keep out of the sun. Some of them might be getting ready to roost because of the incoming storm. Ralph, however, is not ready to roost. He's still with the lions.
Yep, not ready to roost just yet. Thanks, Taylor. We're still sitting with these lions, lionesses, beautiful in the late afternoon sun, that golden haze coming through. It just makes for such a pretty scene here. And I was chatting a little bit about the ticks that you do see behind their ears and sometimes on their neck and all the areas where they can't really reach, normally where they can't get their mouth. And so these ticks do gather up behind their, under their chin, behind their ears. The flies also bite their ears and lay eggs just in the tips of their ears there as well. But it's quite interesting with ticks. Very often you've got the little larvae, which is what we call those pepper ticks, tiny little ticks, and that is the first stage after they hatch, and they'll just hang on the grass in little nests, and as whatever person or hairy leg comes past, they all hitch a ride, and then they latch on to the skin and they start to suck blood. But they obviously also need to inject that anticoagulant like a mosquito does, and that's what makes it itchy eventually, is that chemical that they use for the anticoagulant. So anyway, then they engorge themselves with blood, and when they are tiny like those little pepper ticks, it doesn't take much, and in a couple of days they've engorged themselves enough, and they'll then drop off, and leaving you very itchy all the same, and whoever they have dropped off of. But then they metamorphosize into the second stage, or the adult, and then they once again seek to find a host who they can parasitize and drink all their blood and engorge themselves once more. But at this stage, then obviously reproduction takes place. So that's with the two-stage life cycle tick. You also get three-stage life cycle ticks, which do pretty much the same, but there's just a middle extra stage added where they metamorphosize then 3 times or twice from hatching out of the egg. So actually quite interesting with even the parasites and their life cycles, and obviously it does play a role that it does help to maintain the survival of the fittest, especially once again when we're talking about territories and so on. We speak about the resources and the availability thereof, and if the resources, and when I say resources, it's normally water and food, whichever food that might be, if you're a carnivore or a herbivore, and so if those, the quality of that drops or the amount drops, so either of them, there'll obviously be animals that start to take a bit of strain, and then the parasites really hammer those animals, and they get very sickly and they start to die off. And then it's only the strongest that go through, and those genes are then passed on as well. So very interesting indeed. And that parasites will also play a very important role in maintaining natural strength and groups in genetics. But I think all these female lions are worried about now is catching up a little bit on their sleep, and also just trying to see if there's any food worth catching in the direct vicinity. There's quite an irritation. You see how they keep flicking their ears. Lots of those little gashes in their ears can very often be parasitized by the flies, and they can also make their ears quite tattered. But this female here is beautiful. She doesn't have much wrong with her ears at all, but also quite irritated by the flies. And you can see with her panting, she is also quite warm. It's not boiling anymore like it was a little bit earlier. We can feel the breeze coming across from this storm that seems to be headed our way. And we're not far from Salas, which is the camp where we'll be staying tonight, inside the reserve, not like last night where we were at Talek, just outside. So I think we might stay here a little bit longer and see if these lions eventually decide to maybe go and take on one of the animals on the opposite plain. Hopefully something like a zebra is what I'm hoping for. I don't mean it on any zebra, but it will be wonderful to watch. But in the meantime, let's head you on over to Taylor, just for a little bit.
We're battling the wind at the moment, and our Rupel starling has now turned into an elephant. Can you believe that? What sorcery is this out here in the wilderness? I'm just joking. There was never a Rupel starling. There was just an elephant. This is elephant number 7 for the day. We're off to a great start. Just as seen as though we were talking about how elephants can completely devastate wooded areas and turn them into grasslands. You can see there's not much choice for this elephant. It kind of has to feed on all the small shrubs that are around. There's a bit of grass. I mean, there's definitely some that are long enough pieces that its trunk would be able to pull out the ground, but it's a bit of an effort. And the long tall bits aren't going to be very tasty anymore. They want the stuff growing closer to the ground. So instead of having grass, I'm going to eat the little shrub, the little sparse vegetation. Luckily, there's plenty of these small little things growing and popping out of the ground. I have absolutely no idea what they are, though. You see them everywhere. Anyways, there's so many little things, little plants out here that I have no idea what they are, and it's quite difficult to identify them. But he's on the move. He doesn't seem to be slowing down for too long. Now, Mr. Gohan, you're wondering, why aren't all elephants big tuskers? Well, the reality is that most of the big tuskers around Africa have been poached or hunted. It's very sad, but it is the truth. And then it also got to do with their genetics, and it takes a very, very long time for them to reach the age where their tusks will be long enough. Remember, Ralph was just telling you a little while ago that elephants typically, well, their tusks stop growing at around 50 years old or so. So to reach that age is quite intense, and whether they'll make it to that age before somebody takes their life, not so sure. Unfortunately, poaching is a reality that we're facing every single day, and that we shouldn't hide away from it. I think the more people know about what's actually going on to the beautiful creatures in the world, we can maybe stop it and try and do something about it, rather than pretending that the problem is not there. Well, that's my opinion anyway. So it'll take a while, but some elephants get really big in body mass. I've seen some enormous Kruger bulls, but very, very small ivory. Not really much to show at all. And they were older boys. You could see they've been around for ages. Sort of, the one bachelor herd I saw was at Sabi Sands, quite close to Earth Lodge, in fact. They were all resting under marula trees. There must have been about 5 or 6 of them, and there was 2 relatively big tuskers, and some nice dozen, and the rest of them didn't have big tusks, but they have had massive bodies, and they were much larger than the elephants with the bigger tusks. So perhaps you've got to be very lucky to have both big tusks and be the tallest and the heaviest elephant bull. You don't always get it. You can't always have it all. But this is still a youngish fellow. He could be probably closer to about between 25 and 30 years old or so. Again, I'm just guessing, just looking at his size, looking at the size of his tusks as well. But again, don't estimate an elephant's age just on their tusks, because some elephants don't get tusks. What happens if they've chipped them, you've broken them, and maybe he's a late bloomer, maybe his tusks are only going to have a growth spurt later on in life. So it's always hard to say. And again, when we talk about aging animals, there's obviously a couple of things you can use, but it all comes down to experience in the end, and just constantly encountering these animals and working on properties where they've seen animals that were born and then have lived there for 20 years, that type of thing. And then you go, that elephant has to be between 20 and 25 years old. That's what an elephant of that size will look like, or that age, will look like. Well, that's how we typically do it. Just a couple of trees here and there. It's quite nice. The wind is all of a sudden gone. Well, it's died down quite a bit. Right. No, it's picking up again. I think we just got lucky and the wind took a breath, if you will. Okay, let's carry on going down this way. I'm going to try and find a Rupel starling, because I've said that I want to try and find one. I need to drive along that lugger again. There were so many in those trees. Where are we going to go? I think I'm going the wrong way though. Might have to loop around to go back to the Rupel starlings. Okay, well, I'm going to try and find the road that leads to the lugger. Ralph, however, is having a great time, and he's got his patience pants on and is spending time with the cats.
Thanks, Taylor. Yep, we definitely do need to be a little bit patient with these beautiful lionesses. Every now and then one of them gets up, and then you think, we're going to have, it's going to happen, and then they just walk over, rub against the other one, and then lie down again. But that's all the name of the game. You've got to sit and wait, and if you don't have a line in the water, you're not going to catch a fish. And that one's looking like it's getting interested in something over on the other side of the plain. And it's amazing how we can be sitting here like this, calm as anything. Okay, there is obviously a little bit of interest being shown there in something, but one of them will get up and you'll just see the intent is immediate, and then you can start following and see what they get up to, because they are then definitely on the hunt. Now, Sunny, you're wondering if I'm able to assess the health condition of the lions. Well, Sunny, I'm not a vet, but I can tell from my experience of being around vets and all the research that I've done, and also all the years that I've been in the bush, and when you experience healthy animals and you also experience sick animals. And these animals, to me, look in top nick. Their coat is very clean and shiny. They have obviously got enough nutrition because they are full of muscles, and you can't see the backbone showing very prominently on either of them. And also very often, if a lion is malnourished or it's sick, you start to see the hips showing as well. So you can't see it on either of these. There, obviously, you can, but it's just because she's lying down. And sometimes they will look slightly skinny, but it actually just means that they're hungry. But if their hips and their back start showing, and they've got a very tatty coat, and sometimes even turns mangy, and they just generally look withdrawn in their face as well, and their skin starts to hang a bit. And then you can start to tell that the animal's definitely not feeling well at all, and you can maybe then judge what kind of sickness it's got from the visible symptoms that may be showing. Now, it's quite interesting. Cats also get a kind of acquired immune deficiency syndrome, similar to our AIDS, but it's called FIDS, which is feline immunodeficiency syndrome. And it's quite prevalent in cats, and it can get passed between them, and so it can take out quite a few of their numbers. I'm not sure of the prevalence here in the Masai Mara, but I do know excuse me, that in the Etosha area of Namibia, these lions have got an immunity to FIDS, which is very interesting, because it could probably possibly lead to some way of them using that kind of thinking in getting a cure for AIDS for people. But anyway, that aside, what a lot of private concessions and people that do game farming and have lions on their reserves, they try to get lions from that area, because once that gene is bred into their lions are then immune to the immunodeficiency syndrome, which is very interesting. And I'm sure that there are lots of viewers out there that know something about FIDS, and what is very interesting about that is the cats in the Etosha area having the immune system against that deficiency syndrome. So anyway, something interesting there for you. So I think we're going to keep sitting here with these lovely ladies as the light starts to fade and turn into this golden haze. But while we do that and hope for a hunt in the next little while, we'll be sending you on over all the way to South Africa. And welcome Steve once again.
Good morning and welcome. Sorry to some of you around the world, good morning, but from us in the Sabi Sands, good afternoon. My name is Steve Falconbridge, once again coming with you live on Safari Live in the Sabi Sands, South Africa, where we have had a fantastic afternoon of thunderstorms and rain and downpour. And right now we are coming to you from the Impala Road. We've got a Impala just sitting over there. They have been moving around this morning. I think this is the same herd excuse me, that we saw this morning, characteristic by one of the individuals there that's missing a horn. It's not in shots at the moment, but this other group of male Impala basically not doing too much. We had huge thunderstorms about an hour and a half ago, and the rain has only just abated, and we're now sitting under roof and tarpaulin, and we've battened down the hatches, and we are ready to prepare for a wonderful afternoon in the savannah. Unfortunately, we have had a lot of rain, and the ground is very, very wet, so it is difficult to ascertain whether animals are going to be moving around or not. Generally, what I've found through my experience is that animals, especially the cloven-hooved kind, they find it very slippery and very difficult to move and run in the clay or in the sandy soil when it's very wet, so hence they will just stay put, and we're going to have to physically go and find them, which is not a problem. That's what we're here to do. So we're going to continue on, see if we can find anything further down this road. We're heading towards a dam. The Impala are right there busy feeding, quite relaxed. Temperatures are medium to mild. And we're going to go back to the Masai Mara. We're going to carry on this way. We've got to Taylor up in the north with some big pachyderms.
We've got the biggest ones and the tiniest one too, who's just trying to keep up with Mom. This is a very young elephant, maybe only a month or two old. It is tiny and literally kicking Mom's heels, and with its trunk too. Watch where you put your feet, little one. They just had a drink of water out of a puddle, but it's a lovely little family group that we've got over here. You can see all the different ages. But don't walk away too fast, Mom. My legs are still little and a struggle to keep up. Looks like it's doing an extended walk now. It's straightening its legs and flicking its toes. As I carried on, and look at Mom, as she goes, she's constantly looking for things to eat, so she's picking up little bits of vegetation as she walks. And now she's stopped. Again, and very effective and efficient eaters, elephants. They're constantly on the go. They are always demonstrating how good they are at multitasking. There you go, she's got what she wanted. Snap that with an absolute ease. into the mouth it goes. Gloria, you've said that you love those babies. I do too, and I also love them when they get... I love all the stages of an elephant, from when they're really young to when they get middle age and teenage and become quite bossy, and then when they reach adulthood as well. It's also quite nice. There's this one hanging at the back. I reckon she would be quite cheeky towards us. Looks like a young female. And normally when they get to this age, I reckon she's close to about 10 years old. I always say they're the cheekiest of all the elephants, of all the different ages and between male and female. Essentially, a teenage female elephant can be a nightmare. They just all talk and, no action. They don't necessarily come charging over to you, but they do throw a bit of a tantrum. And we all know that 16-year-old girls are particularly good at throwing tantrums when we don't get our way. I know I was spectacular. I always give 100% whenever I do anything, much to my parents' dismay. But I've grown out of that, well, for the most of it. What are you doing? You're also copying the adults. See, they're all feeding on these little shrubs, just like that elephant bull was that we were watching in the distance. So is this group, but they've come to the lugger now, and that's why the vegetation is so much more dense in comparison to the open. And there's quite a lot of water around here. A lot of this is little guarri trees and things, which aren't necessarily the tastiest of leaves. Most of you know from watching bushwalks and the numerous times that we've all plucked guarri leaves, magic guarri leaves, and there's also, I think, the Nuclear undulata up here too. The common guarri, is they're very bitter, very high in tannins. So you might find that an elephant will only browse on them, although a tannin level effect on an elephant in comparison to a human would be obviously very, very different. Our digestive systems are way different to theirs. So, if they're feeling slightly ill, or, maybe just a bit under the weather, and their tummy's not settled, that's something that they could potentially feast upon to help rectify that issue. Look how sharp that tusk is. It looks like it's actually chipped off at some point. I reckon it would be very rough and very sharp. Scarlett, you're wondering what is the height of that tiny baby. I'm going to have to guess. I would say probably taller than my knee. I'm going to go with, I'm just trying to think, maybe 70 centimeters? Maybe a little bit smaller than that. I would say the height of, not quite a Great Dane. Great Dane would be too big. Maybe a German Shepherd? A fairly decent German Shepherd. They're not small. I mean, an elephant can weigh between 50 and 100 kilograms when it's born. So really it weighs more than the average person, I suppose. And then in terms of height-wise, it's a bit hard. I've never seen a tiny little elephant up close. It's one animal that I'd love to get up close with. I'd love to go and visit one of the orphanages, like the David Sheldrick orphanage in Nairobi. That's on my bucket list. That and Giraffe Manor are two places I really, really want to go and visit and get close and up personal with the animals. And yeah, so I'm just taking a bit of a guess, but I'd say about the height of a German Shepherd also. Fully grown, of course, not a puppy. Very thirsty, aren't you? Mom won't stand still for long enough to let that little one suckle. Still trying to stand on its toes. Now, Sammy, you're wondering, when do the elephant calves start eating solid food? Fairly soon. They might not necessarily be feeding on a lot of it, but they're trying to train the muscles in their trunks. So they start copying the adults. They try and pick up sticks and leaves and pull bits of grass out. And every now and then they'll get a mouthful here and there. So from a few months old. But really from about 6 months old, most of their diet, you'll see them standing and feeding with the adults, but they'll still be suckling. I mean, an elephant will suckle for the first few years of its life. They only normally get weaned between 3 and 4 years old, just before mom is ready to give birth again, is typically when that calf will be suckled. And then we know how naughty they are and how cheeky their older calves are. When mom's not paying attention, they always go in and try and have a suckle when they can, and that's when you often hear the elephant screaming as it's a youngster that's been reprimanded by mom, because she said, no, you're too old for that now. But yeah, so a lot of the animals, I mean, from impala to buffalo, they all start eating grass and leaves and different types of plants fairly early, but it doesn't necessarily play a big role in terms of the entire meal for the day. A large quantity of it will still be milk, but they're still ingesting the small bits. You often see elephants actually eating mom's dung to try and learn, and it's important that they do, because they get a lot of all the certain bacteria that that are needed for digestion. It's a good way to help introduce them. So you often see little ones. The funniest thing I've seen lots of funny things. Nature's kind to me like that. Was once a mom, she defecated, and the little one was standing underneath her tail, kind of like little elephants do all the time. They feel safe around the mom's feet, and unfortunately, a little piece fell on its head. And all that little elephant did was took it off its head and put it straight into its mouth. So that was really funny. But I keep getting distracted from my goal, and I think I need to vamoose so that I can find you this Rupel starling, because I can hear them calling in the distance, in the far distance. But now the wind has picked up again, and the rain is coming. So before the rain hits us, I want to aim to be at the Black Rock Pride again, because at least then we can try and sit and put the covers down and try and keep out of the rain. Those elephants are about to disappear into the thicket though, and we won't be able to follow in there. Not that I'd ever follow an elephant into a thicket, ever. Right, Rupel starlings, where are you? You're here, I know you're in these trees. I heard you. I don't know why I just sat up straight to see higher. You'd think if I was looking for something on the ground that would make sense. Okay, we'll keep trying for this Rupel starling. If we don't see it tonight, we'll always try. In the morning, I'm going to head back down towards the Black Rock Pride to find my lions. Ralph is still with his.
Thanks, Taylor. Yep, we've decided to stay right here. It's too beautiful for us to leave. And look at that. They're starting to yawn a little bit, which is always a good sign. And start being a bit active. It looks like it might have got a piece of grass or something stuck in its mouth. And when you see those teeth like that, it's quite interesting to note what other animals have got large teeth like that. And baboons are actually surprisingly one of them. I think there was something that said that they have almost the same size, or if not the same size as lions. And so quite interesting. They could deliver quite a nasty bite. Baboons actually being omnivorous, and so will also eat meat. Now, Adrian, you're wondering what a lion's best sense is, and I would have to say that it's probably its smell. Along with most animals in the bush, they do use their nose a lot. And if you think about it, my basset hound, my little basset hound dog that I've got at home, I did a little bit of research on him, and I found out that a basset hound has got a nose which is 300 times stronger than that of a human. So just imagine being able to smell 300 times stronger than you do now, and being able to pick up individual smells. So every single little smell. And then I wonder why my basset hound never listens to me, and that's because his nose is always on the ground and he's always following a new scent. And I'm sure it's quite similar with all the wild animals. They've got such a strong sense of smell, and that's why they can pick things up so easily just when the wind blows in the right direction. Ooh, it almost looked like she's got one missing incisor there. Is it on the bottom? Oh, both. There, look, top and bottom on the one side is broken off. That's quite interesting. Shame, she probably find it a little bit more difficult, but it doesn't seem to be bothering her too much because she is in wonderful condition. So she's broken the one side, and I wonder how that happened. It could have been actually while eating a meal, potentially. Or maybe she got into a fight with another female or a male over a meal. Yeah, they do like domestic cats. They can also wipe that around behind their ears sometimes. But it doesn't help to get rid of the ticks, which is why you always feel sorry for them because they all collect around their ears and right in that spot where they can't get to it. But the story continues with these lions still looking like they are interested, but they are really leading us on here now. So, having said that, I think we're still playing the patience game. We're not going to change. It's worked for us so far. We're going to continue doing that. And if we come out with the prize, well, so be it. And if we don't, well, that's also good. We've had a wonderful time with these lions. And I'm going to send you on down to James.
Hello everybody, good afternoon, welcome to this end of the Sunset Safari. The sun has in fact come out, which is a merciful relief. That was a Natal spurfowl until we came live, and then it was just a branch. My name is James Henry. On camera today we have got Usenzo. There we go. Those are his 3 fingers. Very nice. Okay, so please continue to talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live. We'd also, of course, like to hear from you on the YouTube chat stream. My plan today is to go and see if Tundi is in her den with her tiny little small baby cute cub. We'll see what we can find there. We have had a bit of rain today, so I probably won't be bashing around there too much in case we get very stuck, of course. Now, I just want to see if we can see those spurfowl once more, because they're all fresh and washed after the storm we had. Unusual, I think, to have a storm at this time of the day. We were going to go into the tent, and then it stopped raining, and the tent wasn't well performing at its best, and so we decided we'd just come out on the vehicle instead. Have you got it? This is marvellous. You got it. There it is. The marvellous Natal spurfowl. Spurfowling away. Eating leaves. Little buds, probably. Buds. Off that little bush. Off it waddles, and as it waddles away, so I am going to send you over to the great Stephen Falconbridge. Quite a surname, that, really. Falconbridge. One imagines him owning a castle somewhere and wearing armour. Have a look what he has.
Welcome back, folks. Just in time for the intricate dance. The male Nyala bull, who was just in the process of displaying, and he is now slowly come out of his intricate dance and looking a bit sheepish for it. What's happened there exactly is the male Nyala on the left, and there's one that came into view who he's now walking towards, and of course there are a few ladies nearby, and so the one on the left that you can see, he noticed the other one arrive, and he went into this very slow, intricate dance of display and posturing that is, I haven't seen it in another animal, so it is quite an incredible thing to see, and we just missed it there. But he goes back off to his feeding. These animals are really, really happy that there's been some rain. The green shoots on the grass and the leaves are all going to be coming through. These animals have the potential to build up their bulk, build up their strength. And as you can see, that male Nyala there is busy grazing on the floor. And they are quite commonly known as a mixed feeder, unlike their kudu relative that is mainly a browser. I have a question from Zam, and the difference between a Nyala and a kudu. First of all, the size. I've got a page open here to the Nyala, and I'm going to just put it on the front here. You can have a look at the Nyala bull, which has got the horns, he's got the stripes on the body, and the white mane of fur on the back. He's more of a chocolatey brown with quite long orange socks, and the female just underneath it here, she is more chocolatey, or should I say quite light brown with the stripes as well. Kudus are actually a lot bigger. The male kudu is far bigger than the male Nyala, and the kudu cow is far bigger than the female Nyala. Let me see if I can get you a picture. It should be quite close together. And the kudu are uniformly grey. as opposed to the chocolatey brown of the nyala that we've seen. Let me just show you a quick picture of a kudu. Okay, here we go. You can't mistake them for their size. They are impossible to miss from a size point of view. And if you can look over here, the male kudu at the top, he's got the horns. He's still got the stripes, but he doesn't have that dark chocolated brown color, and doesn't have the long orange socks. And the females, just the picture below, the females have got no horns as well, and they're very similar color to the male. The male and females look very similar apart from size and possibly obviously in the horns. The sexual dimorphism between them is very different just with horns, whereas in nyala, the male nyala has got that beautiful coloration, that big mane of hair on the back that you saw, and that just before you joined us, he had it raised up, and it's a process we call piloerection, where he's making himself look far bigger. Now, what these animals do, when you look at animals or antelope in the wild, if the male have got horns and the female don't have horns, then you can almost 100% guarantee that those animals fight for female rights and not defense for young. Yes, indeed. Linda, the nyala are absolutely gorgeous. One of the most beautiful antelope we have out here, probably the most attractive. And as the name nyala, if anybody's probably heard of it before, nyala from the Zulu word to mean onion, because of the layers or the lines. Okay, so I was just alluding to before about the posturing. These animals can't afford to fight everyone every single day. You don't walk into a pub and pick on the biggest guy in the room. You're going to get hurt, and you're going to go home very sore. So what nyala will do is they'll posture and display and make themselves look as big as possible. Both males will be displaying against each other, and they'll basically check each other's situation. Is he bigger? Is he smaller? Is he bigger? Is he smaller? And then one will break off the challenge and move away, determining the other one to be the winner. If they do happen to fight, which doesn't happen as often as you would think in the wild, then it can turn out to be quite serious blows. You can see the horns on the top of that animal's head. They are extremely sharp and extremely accurate, and the sole purpose of them is for puncturing organs and doing serious damage to the body of the opponent. You don't wield those lightly, and when they do engage each other, nyala bulls weigh over 100 kilograms. When they do engage, they are extremely powerful animals, and can lead to some serious injuries. I've found dead nyala before that had a puncture wound to the lung. You can only ascertain that was done by another male. So, I don't know if you can hear what's going out here. The birds have come alive. It's one thing that the rain does bring, is the birds, they go out and they preen and they clean, and it's almost a new day for them. They'll jump up in the trees and they're in their bird parties and they're calling. Let's just have a listen, see what we can hear. So I can hear an orange-breasted bushshrike, green-backed Cameroptera, Natal spurfowl, the woodlands kingfisher, of course, wonderful part of the day after some rain. The birds are invigorated, and a lot of these birds, being insect eaters, are going to be very happy with this rain, because the insects will actually breed. You'll often have hatchings of insects after rainfall. You'll have, then those insects will form breeding pairs, or should I say they'll mate and they'll breed again, laying more eggs, and the oncome of more rain will just perpetuate more and more and more insects. In the background there's some frogs calling, so everything is coming alive. I had a question there from Scarlett: what is my favorite animal to see on drive? And I alluded to this morning. If I could, I would love to see it every day, but it's very elusive, is the honey badger. But you know, on drive, what is fun to see? Always elephants. Elephants always doing something. Baboons are always doing something. A lot of the animals, a lot of the cats that we might see out there are not as exciting all the time as you are led to believe, and they're often just lying down doing pretty much nothing. When they are up, it's very exciting, but elephants, baboon, always doing something. But while we're listening, while we're taking in the bush sounds, we're going to continue on here towards the pan, see if we can see anything else that might be moving around. The animals seem to be quite happy. The rain seems to have abated. We've lifted the sides of the canopy. The light is coming in. We're feeling good, we're feeling fresh, and the smells in the air are clean, and the dust is gone, and it's always that lovely, lovely smell after some rainfall, which really cleanses the earth and brings new life. Water, it is the currency of life, and we will continue on. How are you doing there, VM? Forgot to mention, folks, with all the business of the canopy, my cameraman this afternoon is VM. I apologize for that, VM, for getting you there, my friend. Okay, should maybe get another visual of them now. They're feeding lovely there. You can hear that call of the orange-breasted bushshrike. Very elusive bird, you don't often see them. Also known as a ventriloquist bird, because when you do find the call in the tree, it's always coming from a different place. So there you can clearly see the nyala are preferring the fresh grass shoots. After these short stints of rain that we have, the grass flushes and you get very fresh green shoots. And that's what the nyala are feasting on right now. And as the grass starts to deteriorate in quality, they'll move back to the foliage. But most of your animals this time of year will be feeding on grass, including your elephants. And on that note, we're going to be linking you back to James, who's got a bit of an update. Enjoy.
Hello everybody, we've come to the den of Tundi. Unfortunately, Tundi and her baby are not here. Now, the den is where Sendra's pointing the camera now, just underneath there, and underneath the log is where she was yesterday, just to the right of that. Just to the right of that, and you can see, if you look very carefully, there's the shininess of a puddle there. And that means, of course, that no self-respecting leopard is going to be lying in a puddle. So it is incumbent on us to look around in the branches of the trees here and see if there isn't a leopard lurking there somewhere. I have failed to see any spots at all in any of the tree boughs. And without Tundi here, it's highly unlikely the little one's going to come out. And in fact, what we shouldn't do is try and entice it out, of course, with small, perhaps, offerings of bacon or pancakes, mainly because that's not very good for a leopard's nutrition. No, that's not the main reason. The main reason, of course, is that we don't do that sort of thing, and we don't want to be around if the baby's here and she isn't, because, of course, that does put the baby in danger. Okay, so I'm afraid we're going to have to leave this area. I will do a little bit of a circle around that way and see if I can't see Mum somewhere there. Baby is not around, but we thought we'd just come and check regardless, because, well, it's important to come and check these things, especially when one wants to see little baby leopards. Let us reverse. Thank you all for being very kind to Steve and welcoming him with your usual open arms and hearts. Now, Scarlett, you are wondering how far Tundi will travel between dens with her cub. Well, I can tell you how far she has moved. Her first den was, or the first one that we knew of, was about, what should we say, about, as the crow flies, no more than 500 meters or so. So that's about a quarter of a mile. Is it a quarter of a mile? No, about a third of a mile, say. A third of a mile from the first den she moved, and then from that den to here is probably, I would say, call it a kilometer or so. So 2/3 of a mile. So she can, I mean, that last bit was quite far, but not certainly not beyond the physical abilities of an experienced leopardess. Right, we'll just ease our way up here. It's very important in conditions like this, when the ground is wet, not to spin the wheels, because that, of course, will cause erosion. So we need to drive very carefully and gently through these areas. Now let's look in the trees around here, because it is in these boughs I feel that there may be a leopard lurking, unless, of course, she's found herself an extremely well-sheltered bush under which to lie. And as I was saying to Senzo as we arrived here, we might not be able to see the leopard, but of course that does not mean the leopard is not here. Oh, a question from A. Is it A? A, you're wondering what my favourite is, a lion or a leopard cub. Well, I must confess to you that it's lions. When they're little, up until they're about 6 weeks old, after which it transfers to leopards. And that's just because a tiny lion cub is beyond contestation the cutest creature in all the world. They really are just magnificent little things to look at, and the noises they make are quite overwhelming. Alrighty, we are now going to go back to the Masai Mara to see Taylor, who has a mane almost as magnificent as the animal she's about to show you.
Ah, thank you, James. You're just so sweet. Ah, that was rude, Mr. Lion. You just turned at the wrong moment. But finally, our friend who gobbled up the warthog this morning is up and awake, and he's looking a lot more lively than what he did a little while ago. So he's just woken up, probably only a couple of minutes, and he's taken a bit of a stroll down the beaten track to this point where he's now staring at the sunset, which is quite cool. I'm trying to figure out what on earth he's looking at, because he's fixated on something at the moment. He's very alert. Every sound that he seems to be hearing, he's turning his head and looking at it. Remember, it is quite windy. The wind is muffling quite a lot of the sound. So, you know, maybe it's a warthog shuffling in the grass. You wouldn't want to miss that cue, because it could be your only cue. But that is a majestic sight, isn't it? Now, I know, James, you've just said that you absolutely love the little lion cub. So do I. However, there's very few things that can top the beauty that is oozing at the moment from this male lion. I mean, wind blowing through his mane, golden grass, light catching his eyes. It's all so stunning. And then I've also got some more good news for you, because we're just filled with good news, is that it seems like some of the other little lions have woken up as well, and they were up on the rocks. But we'll go and take a look at them in a bit, when hopefully they're going to wake up even more and play for us. That would be nice. It'd be cool to see lions scrapping and taking on a big male lion, trying to get a mouthful of warthog to them chasing after the females. But it would be great to get them all playing on those rocks, especially with this golden light now. It has really turned beautiful. Now, Safari Wildman, you said what a beautiful blonde male. Yes, he doesn't seem to have a particularly dark mane. It's dark on the tips. It's kind of like the opposite of my hair at the moment. But yes, more of a blonde mane male than anything. And he is lovely, though. He's a very attractive looking lion as far as looks go. Not too scarred up. A very nice face. One of the least attractive lions I've seen has to be a Mfumo and Tinyo. Now, I know some of you are probably not going to be too happy about me making that comment, but in all honesty, come on, let's not tell lies here. But with those swollen noses and all those cuts and things, they make for great subjects to photograph. But wow, this fella is just something out. And look how white his muzzle is as well. It's almost as if he's got a beard. It's standing out against his face. It's even whiter than the white stripes underneath his eyes. Oh, that's lovely. I wish he was sitting on one of those rocks, though. Standing. Wouldn't that be amazing? Now, take care. You're wondering why are his lips black and not pink? Well, I think if he had pink lips, he'd be susceptible to sunburn. So I'm sure it's just through evolution that they have gone a lot darker. If you look at a lot of the different animals, their lips are darker in color, and I'm pretty sure that's to combat the sun. Like I said, sunburn is a real thing. I know all about it. I'm constantly putting a lip balm of sorts with an SPF on my lips because they are terrible with the wind and the sun. But he doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need anything at all. He's got natural protection from that. Isn't that beautiful? We really are spoiled, aren't we? And hopefully James is going to find Tundi for you, and then you can have lots of lions, and we'll show you lion cubs at some point this afternoon, although you've already had a sneak peek of them at the beginning of Drive, and then imagine a sweet little leopard to go on top. I'm envious. I've been looking at all your screenshots. Thank you everybody for taking screenshots and sharing them. And if you are new and you don't know what we're talking about, you've got to be quick, and it does take some skill, but you can take screenshots while you're live, and then we love to see them. So remember to hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. That's also the same way that you can ask us questions on this live safari. Wow. But you can see the sky is starting to turn a darker shade of blue now, and that's because the clouds are rolling in, and I can hear the thunder every now and then. Ah, here we go. He's opened his mouth slightly. Perhaps we're going to be blessed with a yawn. No, you're just panting. Not really warm anymore at all. I'm ready to put some jerseys on. The wind is very chilly. Now, Sharon, you've said that it's amazing that those sweet baby cubs turn into these massive lions. It is, and aren't we lucky that we get to watch them grow? And I think that's one of the most amazing things about Safari Live, is the fact that we follow the lives of the various animals day in and day out. Yes, we go a few days or a few weeks without seeing them. It's kind of like family reunions, isn't it? You don't see your family all the time. I know I don't. I haven't seen my family now for almost 5 months. So it's going to be very exciting when I get back. I'm going to see how everybody's grown. Well, my parents are just growing older, though. Dad's getting a lot more grey. And my brother looks like a lumberjack. Same stuff's happening. My mom's constantly telling him to shave. But I don't think he'll be growing anymore either. And neither will this male lion. He's also a fully grown adult. There's some beautiful lions down in the Sand River Valley, though. And I was hoping to see some of the very, very blonde lions that Brent and Manu have told me stories about. Apparently they're quite skittish, though. They hang around sort of between the Sand River, there we go, and the Tanzanian border. And unfortunately, though, we weren't able to find any. There he is, up and stretching now. And you can see his belly is actually not that big after he ate an entire warthog today. But just enough. He's moving quite far away from the females. I don't know if he's maybe going to go for a drink. Well, I'm just a bit nervous to follow him. The reason why I say this is because this is the dip where there are lots of gremlins. So, you know, kind of like Billy Goat Gruff and living under the bridge, all that whole story. It's like that over here. So we might not be able to follow him while we're live because otherwise it's not going to be great. Right. I'm going to see if I can follow this male lion, and hopefully the gremlins won't harm us. However, Steve is down in the Sabi Sands. It's his second drive with Safari Live. Hopefully he's going to see some of those birds that he's told you about.
Welcome back. As the sounds of the birds in the wilderness are still shouting towards us, VM and I have found a beautiful bird. We're trying to get you some visual of what it's doing up in the tree there. Just difficulty with the roof that we have at the moment, but there we have it. There we have it, the red-billed hornbill on the floor, and is making use of the rain to gather mud. Now, I wonder if anybody out there knows why the hornbill is gathering mud. Not doing a very good job.